countdown to economic collapse.
System error.
It's been crazy, hasn't it?
It's amazing. We're still alive.
Oh my gosh, it's attacking us! Ah! Okay. Lulu attacked us.
I can't believe we're still alive.
I can't believe we're still alive.
I know. December 21st came and went, and we're still alive. The world didn't end.
For all of you conspiracy buffs, we're going to do some dispelling of conspiracy theories that are currently out. We're going to talk about them, possibilities that things are happening that are very strange right now. But for the most part, America is getting through a pretty tough economic time right now. What do you think?
I think a lot of people are putting a lot of their Christmas purchases on credit cards. And I think the next year, the new year, everybody should have a resolution to pay it off. But I think it's going to be tough times in the next year ahead. Consumer
credit is up to $1.2 trillion. That's how much money people have borrowed. And the student loan debts are increasing as well. And a lot of people are not paying back their student loans, so that's happening. There's some things happening in the world that we are going to discuss later in the show, and you'll see some detailed work on all of that. UBS, HSBC, major financial institutions have been getting all kinds of penalties against them, and we're going to talk about that in detail a little bit later in the show. But right now we're dealing with a brand new president, the same person we've had for 4 years.
Brand new, yeah.
Yeah, the same guy we've had for 4 years. So when is this guy going to start doing something to make sure that we do something to help our country?
He did cry this week.
He cried.
I do want to say...
he cried. Well, wait a second. Did we see a tear when he cried? Because I didn't see any tears when Barack Obama cried at the terrible shooting that happened at Sandy Hook. Go ahead. Well, I don't see any tears from Barack Obama. That's the point. I mean, putting your hand up against your eye is not a tear. You know, I'm sorry.
Speaking of Sandy Hook, I do want to say that our hearts go out to all of the victims' families, and I want to encourage everyone to have another New Year's resolution, that is volunteer and be a mentor for students.
Right. Now, one of the biggest problems with young people today is they tend to be really quiet. In the case of Cho, the murderer who killed 32, he was a guy who suffered from mutism. So be aware that kids who don't talk, who are very shy or been picked on by other kids, are potentially at high risk for actions like this. I can't say for sure who is going to do it next, but we have to be aware that those people need to be contacted and approached by volunteers and teachers and family.
We've been doing a little research about the parents of the shooter, and we're going to bring you that information now.
Elaine Lanza, in the same area, works at Morgan Stanley. That is not Nancy J. Lanza, the woman who was killed by her son Adam in the recent shooting at Sandy Hook. Now, let's also look at her education background. She eventually attended the University of New Hampshire and worked in the new accounts division of John Hancock Mutual Life Insurance Company of Boston until 1992. You will see that this is exactly what appears on the internet. There's nothing else. She wasn't working at any particular agency, and she wasn't working at the school. That's all been completely dispelled by fact check. Okay, let's go ahead and take a look more about Adam Lanza's father, Peter.
We have been doing some research about Adam Lanza's father, Peter Lanza, since the tragic shooting that occurred. Peter Lanza is employed as the tax director and vice president of taxes at GE Energy Financial Services. He has helped GE evade paying taxes for some time now. Lanza would have contributed to the success of GE evading corporate taxes. Some people have claimed, especially conspiracy sites have claims some kind of connection of Peter Lanza to the Libor hearings, but there is absolutely no connection whatsoever. However, Libor, there has been an update on what's happening with the Libor hearings. In fact, it has been completely settled. UBS is going to pay $1.5 billion and admit to fraud in order to settle the charges of manipulating global benchmark interest rates. Barclays Bank was fined $450 million, and that was in June for rigging the Libor benchmark rates. And then Britain's HSBC agreed to pay the biggest penalty ever, $1.92 billion, to settle the probe in the United States into laundering money for drug cartels. None of these banks are going to be facing, or bankers are going to be facing, criminal charges. None of them are spending any time in jail.
The people that aren't asking questions about our country are certainly wondering why big, huge corporations are getting a write-off. They just get single penalties. They have no criminal charges for supporting terrorism or drug cartels. And we're wondering why so many people, like John Corzine of MF Global, has been getting off, why we see the Libor scandal settled without any criminal penalties. All of this makes us wonder, no matter whether you believe they're conspiracies or not, whether our country is doing the right thing, allowing big banks to have so much control over our lives.
Don't allow the big banks to take control of your life.
Right.
I want you to start to take control over your own financial future.
Right.
And make that your goal this coming year, is to get control of your own personal finances, even if it means things like what we're doing, wearing big winter jackets instead of turning on the whole house furnace.
Right.
You know, take that time and make these small decisions that will add up in the long term.
Now let's go one by one, because this past year has been a whole process of questions. Even this Mayan calendar thing that supposedly was ending.
Well, obviously the world didn't end.
Well, no, I read an article that said it was going to be postponed till Sunday, that some of the Mayan calendar experts predicted it's Sunday. Here it is Sunday right now.
We're still alive. Are
We're
we
still
the only
alive.
last two people on Earth?
I'm not one to believe that the Mayan calendar thing was real, but I do believe that our country's facing some major change. And part of that is a result of the fractional reserve banking system beginning to reach the end of its effectiveness. Printing up money out of thin air, which is what they've been doing over the past almost 100 years now, has led to a tremendous amount of money and the devaluation of the US dollar. And that's a fact.
I will agree with you on that one.
Okay, so we agree on that.
So we actually have a theory or a thing that we agree on.
So we're on the same table there.
I think that is definitely going to come to a...
Right. Now, you made a good point earlier, that you didn't care whether Barack Obama was gay or straight, or whether he was...
I don't think anybody's sexual orientation, especially the president's, has anything to do with anything. And...
Well, I raised the question, what if he'd been lying to us all along, that he had a gay relationship with Donald Young in Chicago?
I don't think I don't think it
doesn't matter to you that he's been lying? That a president lies?
I don't think that that's relevant to any type of discussion.
Okay, well, I agree with you there, because we all have problems, regardless of our differences about Obama, about the economy. So what we're trying to do is not put the little idiosyncrasies of our differences ahead of the real problem, which is our country, and building jobs, solving the housing issue, solving the banking crisis without giving big banks more money. I think both Sarah and I are on the same table there. But as far as Barack Obama's citizenship, I obviously disagree with her. As far as his sexual orientation, I think it does matter that he's been lying to the American people, and his gayness will eventually come out in the press, I think. But regardless, moving on.
Okay.
Let's go to the other questions that we have about... many issues about Adam Lanza have come up. his father being a General Electric senior tax accountant.
Well, I think that brings up the issue, not like of conspiracy theories, all that. I think it brings up the issue that basically that there's major corporations that are not paying their taxes here in the U.S.
Right. And he was central to that. The father was central to that.
Well, he was their tax accountant.
Right. And unrelated, the Libor scandal was resolved a few days later after the shooting in Sandy Hook. So maybe people are drawing connections. You're saying they're drawing connections from thin air or from hearsay.
Yes, I do think a lot of conspiracy theorists and conspiracy sites there's a couple of people that run with the story, and then it spreads through. I would say the alternative media seems to spread these stories, and I would say mainstream media also spreads stories quickly that have no valid proof. One of the things, I was reading this story as it happens, and it was through Atlantic Monthly, I believe, and there's this one Twitterer that was saying messages that turned out to be false.
Yeah, I saw that. I saw that. Every single statement he made was totally false.
And he didn't link to anything in his Twitter messages. And
right.
Atlantic Monthly was citing him as a source of information.
Now, I've heard theories that the mother was working for Morgan Stanley. Well, we did a check on that. We found out that there are two women named Nancy Lanza. One is Nancy Elaine, and then her Nancy J. are two different people. Now, I still am looking into the question, what did this woman do in the house with her son? And that was her full-time job, is dealing with this kid. And I find it very, very unusual that that he was allowed to go gun shooting every day. I mean,
well, it's not just allowed. He was actually encouraged by her. She lived in, I would say she lived in fear of the world ending.
Well, many people think, Sarah, that this entire event is very, very timely insofar as it issues gun control legislation. And I predicted 2 years ago that this would be Obama's next plan for America.
When he got reelected.
And I talked about that.
Control guns.
Right. So the theory that is still out there in the blogosphere is who created the mind of Adam? What made him do it? Other people are wondering, was there another shooter outside of the school? Because there was an inordinate amount of rounds fired at this shooting. At the school. And I don't understand why there's word on the internet that there was a second gunman and now there's no word.
That was initial reports, and that's what I feel is that the media picks up these little tidbits and runs with them before anything's actually verified.
Okay, well, that certainly is, you're entitled to that theory. We can't nail any of this down. A lot of conspiracy people have not been able to nail
they
down.
did say that there was a second gunman, but that has been proven false.
Well, so they did apprehend somebody in Danbury with a maroon van.
That was unrelated.
Okay, all right. Well, unrelated, the theory that somebody came by the outside of the classroom and shot into the windows because of all the glass.
There's no substantiated evidence of that. Okay. Don't run with stories that aren't substantiated.
I'm not running with any of these stories. I'm just raising these issues that are.
I mean, that's what happens. I think on the internet, it's like there's what's like maybe if people follow Twitter or something like that, and they say, well, what's trending right now on the internet, and then they try to connect all the things that are trending, but when some things that are, maybe people are searching for or maybe are trending on the internet, they're not related.
Okay, I acknowledge that. There's another theory that James Holmes, the shooter in Aurora, Colorado at the movie theater, his father was involved in the FICO end of the... Go ahead.
Yeah, and of course there's a YouTube video that, and The Dark Knight Rises, the Aurora was mentioned, which Aurora, Colorado is where the James Holmes incident happened. And they mentioned Sandy Hook. Right. And Sandy Hook Elementary is where this shooting
that theory goes back to the fact that the movie theaters have always shown things in advance of pre-planned conspiracies.
It's more that people can go back and they make connections that are just their own little superficial connections.
Okay, so Neo in the movie Matrix, Neo was carrying a passport that did say that his birthday was 9/11/2001, the date of the infamous World Trade Center attack. Well, how do you
Again,
explain
a
that? How do you explain that? A
I would
coincidence?
say it was a coincidence.
A coincidence, okay. Well, there are many people that believe that a lot of this is telegraphed, foreshadowed, that these events occur as a result of people who are very sick mentally who want to control the world. Now, I'm going to be showing you another video at the end of the show describing an organization that works very closely with the UN, and that organization is the Lucis Trust. Now, just yesterday, the Lucis Trust had a celebration in favor of Lucifer. I'm not kidding.
Well, I want to see the
I'm going to show
evidence
you.
of this.
I'm showing you that. Yes.
I don't know even if they had. I don't even know if I believe that they had some kind of
gathering.
gathering.
Well, it was a live stream gathering in 3 major cities around the world, and they were celebrating the birth of and life of Lucifer.
And your source.
This is the main website for Lucis Trust, which is an organization that does a lot of the media publications for the UN and other international agencies. They go on to talk about their origins, the esoteric meaning of Lucifer. There are comments on the World Wide Web claiming that the Lucis Trust was once called the Lucifer Trust. Such was never the case. However, for a brief period of 2 or 3 years in the early 20s, when Alice and Foster Bailey were beginning to publish the books published under her name, they named their fledgling publishing company Lucifer Publishing Company. Now, they're admitting this here. By 1925, the name was changed to Lucis Publishing Company and has remained so ever since. Both Lucifer and Lucis come from the same root word, lucis being the Latin generative case meaning of light. It goes on to say that they had a great teacher, H.P. Blavatsky, whatever, for whom they had enormous respect, sought to elicit a deeper understanding of the sacrifice made by Lucifer. Alice and Foster Bailey were serious students and teachers of theosophy, a spiritual tradition which views Lucifer as one of the solar angels. Okay, so they deny any connection to Lucifer, except it's all over the place. They're admitting it. And they're having an event coming up at London, New York, Geneva. It started on the 21st. The Festival Week of Group of World Servers. Now, apparently there are people serving Lucifer, and they're meeting at these locations. All right? This is really going on. And I understand that they're embracing the New World Order and the power of Lucifer.
That these people are members of a New World Order takeover, using the UN to control the future of our nation, use it as the police force around the world, hijack our nation's operations, and basically get rid of all our guns here in America so that no one can defend against their takeover of our nation once they're done with us. Now, this is something that many people have posited as the same type of thing that happened with Germany during Hitler's time. Now, I can tell you that many of the banks that are around today, like Union Bank of New York, was implicated in money laundering for Adolf Hitler in the 1930s. The vice president and director of that bank was none other than Prescott Bush, the grandfather of George W. Bush. All of these things are facts, okay?
This is from a Fox News article dated October 17th, 2003, in which it says documents show that Bush's grandfather directed the bank tied to a man who funded Hitler. President Bush's grandfather was a director of a bank seized by the federal government because of its ties to a German industrialist who helped bankroll Adolf Hitler's rise to power. Government documents show.
Sure. The one thing that I've learned is that banks seem to get away with a huge amount, and they don't seem to charge anyone criminally with acts that happen based on banking.
Okay, so you're of the anti-conspiracy belief that these banks are just getting away with holy moly crimes of unbelievable proportion, and they're being slapped on the wrist with penalties.
Right.
Okay, so both sides right now agree that banks need to be reeled in. Okay, that being the case, if we proceed forward...
And the only thing that we can do as human beings or as just average citizens is withdraw our money from the banks.
Well, I think people are withdrawing more than their money from the banks. They're withdrawing from society.
If they have any money in the banks.
I'm just telling you, you can't make any money in the banks right now. 0.01% in a savings account at Wells Fargo. Seriously. So the banks have become built up, and they're all over the place now, with KeyBank getting $40 billion because he The CEO is on the Board of Governors of New York. They got $40 billion. They went out and did new construction. So right now, people are thinking new construction is going on, when in fact it's just money coming out of the Federal Reserve, printed money out of thin air.
Out of thin air.
And that's just the beginning of this scenario as it unwinds. So any new construction you're seeing right now is probably due to that Federal Reserve printed money. It's not due to a change in the dynamic of the economy. The core index has not really responded well to the Ben Bernanke changes. He himself has admitted that he's failed in stopping this nation from entering a recession again. So we're seeing a general meltdown from the two parties, and now we are entering the fiscal cliff. And this is a fiscal cliff period, which I said was going to happen.
Automatic cuts will go into effect.
Yep, up to $600 billion are going to be pulled off the budget in both military personnel, military contracts, and I doubt Obama's going to cut a lot of contracts, but he's also going to eliminate social services like food. Some of the food stamps will have to be cut back across the nation, and other social programs. So we're all going to be facing a real pinch here. So this might be the Renaissance Christmas before the Depression that I'm predicting is still going to happen. But many people, we walked around a really interesting mall in Washington last night, and we noticed how wealthy people seemed. You notice
they seem like they're just, they're continuing to shop for Christmas, and I think it's all on credit.
Well, we don't know. I can't see every single purchase.
I don't know if it is either.
If this economy rebounds during the Christmas...
Unless they're doing much better than I think they are.
That's what I'm wondering. I'm wondering if you and I sitting in our cold living room are some of the few, and the rest are just doing fantastic. I really am curious about that, because we as average Americans are hanging in there, and we're getting by, but how many people are really doing really well right now? And I'm wondering, maybe there are a lot of people who are connected to good jobs or pension plans that are enjoying the benefits of a wonderful, fantastic Christmas, where they can go out to dinner, they can buy each other Apple iPads, whatever. But the fact is, these people are appearing at the malls that we're going to in a major city like Seattle. Are they appearing in your city? Are you one of those people that are very content with your economy and you think everything's going along? Because I in no way want to carry a conspiracy banner when everyone else is standing around going, hey man, relax, everything's cool, yeah. It's okay that the big banks got away with helping terrorists and drug cartels. It's okay that Obama's a liar and continues to lie to the American people. Hey, relax.
I
don't believe that
like I said, it's the court of public opinion you have to think about too.
I don't believe that. I don't believe that the American people, the court of public opinion, would think that Obama was gay if he sued somebody for defamation of character. I don't.
Well, you guys can say that in the comments.
You decide yourself.
If Obama was to sue Larry Sinclair because Larry Sinclair claimed that Obama had sex with him in a limo and also did crack cocaine with him in a limo, would you think that if Obama filed a slander suit, would you think that Obama actually did those things? I'll say I would think that.
Well, you don't think a lot of things are possible, but from that perspective, what if Larry Sinclair was telling the truth, and what if he passed a lie detector test with 99% certainty, which he did, by the way. He did. Now, what if he did that? Then now you're refuting whether lie detector tests work.
No, I'm saying that lie detector tests, I would say that Larry Sinclair believes that occurred.
So Larry Sinclair...
And it doesn't matter whether...
Believes...
That doesn't matter, really, because all that matters is what the American people believe.
Well, obviously that's the overriding fact, because they voted him into position as the new future president.
Obama.
Barack Obama will be signed in January, and we're going to see the new future president as the same old president do the same old things that he's done for 4 years, which hasn't solved America's problems, and yet we continue to have people like Sarah who believe, and most people believe, as Sarah does, that Barack Obama is a perfectly good, normal person who's never lied to anybody and continues to try to fight for our country. That's what you believe.
I personally think that that just shifting blame to the president takes the blame somehow off of us, and that really it's up to the American people to stand up and as John F. Kennedy said, ask not what your country can do for you, ask what you can do for your country. It is up to us, the American people, to stand up and start making our country what we want it to be. If we want our schools to be safe, then we need to go and make sure that our schools are safe.
Well, wait a second. What about when Ronald Reagan said that big government is the problem?
That goes back to what I'm saying.
We want an overreaching government?
No, I'm saying that goes back to us as well. That's the same thing. It comes down to the American people taking responsibility for what happens in America.
Well, I'm sorry, but I don't believe that the American people are going to be very happy with what's coming. Because what's coming, Obama has authorized the use of 20,000 drones in America by the year 2017 and 30,000 drones by the year 2020. That means that you will be watched by both government and commercial operations, that your every move will be watched and you won't have any privacy at all. Now, are you okay with that, Sarah?
We just saw some drones for sale yesterday
at the mall,
that people can use themselves.
You can go buy your own drones,
could buy their own drones.
So can we even stop this technocracy, totalitarian police state, or is it imminently going to take over because we're all a bunch of mindless jellyfish?
I don't think that we're all mindless jellyfish. I don't think the American people are that way at all.
I tend to believe that our country is falling into a rut, a lack of information, lack of shared thought.
Disagree with you.
No, that's what this is about. I don't mind disagreeing at all. This is the whole point of our party. Sarah and I started this party with the intent of finding some common ground between the left and the right. And I approached it from the right and the left.
Or the left and I
approached it from the right and she approaches it from the left and the right. The fact is, Sarah and I are both centrists, and even though we disagree on other incidental things like we've been disagreeing on, we do agree that the government has created too many operations. We need to cut waste. We also agree that the Federal Reserve has become ineffective. We need to deal with that and end the Fed. So in this disagreement that Sarah and I have at the center of the political spectrum, we are finding some commonality. Now, I'm not trying to change her opinion, and she's not trying to change my opinion. We obviously disagree on a lot of these issues that are affecting a lot of people on the blogosphere. And many of you think that there has been some third-party interference in the case of Adam Lanza. Some people think that he was put up to it by other forces. Sarah says no. This is just a madman who's gone crazy and just so happens to be on the heels of assault weapon ban treaties proposed by none other than Dianne Feinstein. Now, I want to remind all of you that every single genocide in the history of the world has been preceded by gun control. And I want to also remind you that the legislation that Dianne Feinstein is proposing will not prevent people like Cho from getting 10-round clips and loading them into a rifle. By the way, he used 10-round clips and killed 32 people in Virginia Tech. So this legislation seems to be unregulatable, uncontrollable, and I believe it'll be too costly for the American people to even oversee.
Can get involved and help us build the centrist movement. You can go to our website and actually sign up, become a member at americasthirdparty.com/member. And do your part to make America better.
Well, as you can see, we're holding this fledgling centrist movement together right now, even though Sarah and I disagree on a lot of issues. And I want you to know that we're still forging forward every night on Blog TV, and we're expanding our technology to include a new program called XSplit, which will give us the ability to multicast on Ustream and other channels at the same time. And we're just upgrading our technology this winter, and we should have multiple shows available. So if you've got an iPad, you'll be able to watch us on your iPad in the future. And we're hoping that that will ignite this seemingly unstable centrist movement right now, because as you can see, we obviously differ on a lot of issues, but we're still forging forward with some of the key issues. And I think both of us care about the environment. We both want to end wars. We both want to get our troops home. We want to protect our border. Sarah and I agree on a lot of issues, especially about the influx of illegal aliens into our country. We don't want more illegal aliens taking away U.S. jobs. And I'm tired of the corporatocracy controlling politics, and I think Sarah's concerned about that too.
Yes, indeed. Take care, everybody.
Take care and have a happy holiday and a politically correct Christmas.